it's are the club running, club organised trips to European matches, and that's a challenging environment. I sound like a club spokesman here because that's what they say to me. It's a challenging environment, but I think it genuinely is. I think it's hard to find planes and they're expensive, and that's why it costs so much per person to fly on the club trip to Istanbul for the Champions League. So that I'm always saying to them, I've got people coming to me saying what's happening with the club trip. I think the club have definitely confirmed they're doing one for Leipzig. It looks like they're not going to do one to Switzerland, and that's to do with cost and it's half term and all sorts of things there. And they're trying to do one to Red Star Belgrade. So I do believe the club they're trying the best. They just find it difficult. That's a bit of a live issue for some people at the moment. And I'll tell you what's a live issue that's going to get more and more difficult as we get through the season is we've got more people wanting to watch Manchester City. We've got more. The Haaland signing was a game changer in terms of that, I think. Now, what you hear is your hardcore fan who goes every week moaning about what they call tourists. But it doesn't matter what you call them. There are people who want to come and watch Manchester City play. And that's City fans who haven't got a season ticket who want to come to a game, and we have got people who just want to come and see the football that we play. And we shouldn't really be upset about that. But what we do need to do is make sure the club look after those people, who followed the team when it wasn't so good, and make sure that your regular fans get a good and fair bite at the cherry when the tickets become available. So I work with them, and so do other people on City Mats all the time to try and get that side of it right. And it's a balance. They know that the season ticket holder type fan is going to come to a lot of the games, but they want to grow the fan base, and that to do that they need to give those people, and some of them are new fans. Let's not pretend, why shouldn't we have new fans? Some of those people a chance to get a ticket for a game. It's probably easier when it's a Champions League or an FA Cup game because we've got 36,000 season ticket holders out of 50,000 tickets available for a Premier League game. So there aren't loads of tickets floating around for these people who are not season ticket holders. It's only there's only 14 left. So it's all about the balance, and we need to make sure we look after both sides of it. But I try and hold their feet to the fire when it comes to season ticket holders. That's the biggest challenge.
One of the topics that came up when Alex Williams was a guest at the Blues in Business lunch the other day, and he volunteered it himself, was somebody asked him about that type of subject that you're talking about, ticket
Yeah,
distribution. And he says it is the main thing that people talk to him about. And his answer is always along the lines of, well, what would you rather do? Go back to the old club when you could get tickets, or the problem of trying to get a ticket in the modern club?
yeah,
Even that, though, even though nobody in that room came back on him, I know that there are fans out there who will say, "Yeah, but I quite preferred it in the old days when I could go with my mates, and and it was a lot easier." It is,
yeah,
but whichever way you look at it, this is a conundrum which is impossible to sort out
yeah.
in a way that everybody's happy with, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the classic case. We've got the same number of tickets we had 5 years ago. We got loads more people wanting tickets. The supply hasn't gone up. The demand's gone through the roof. The club have been caught out by it. I mean, it's only my opinion, but they really pushed these match day memberships where you pay 35 quid for the season and you get a priority. You don't get the priority because season ticket holders do. We get a priority, and somebody who might have been a match day member for 25 years had very similar priority to somebody who bought it the day before. And they didn't think it was going to be a problem because I'm not sure City are always the best at spotting problems before they arrive. And like the classic was Real Madrid in the semi-final last year when it was open house, the website crashed, everybody was all over to get these extra tickets. So there weren't loads of tickets because season ticket holders on the cup scheme were guaranteed. So I don't know how many there were available. There's just so many people wanted to, and they haven't really thought it through. So we're trying to get them to think about how do we make it a more manageable and fairer process. So you want the club to grow, you want fans to get the chance to come who want to come and watch you. Why shouldn't a new fan come? But we also have to look after people who've been following the club for years. It's a difficult balance. It's the main reason why they want to expand the stadium by 7,000 because those tickets, they are convinced they can sell 7,000 extra tickets for most Premier League home games and cup games.
Which brings us on to perhaps another talking point that you might be discussing, which is the disruption that's caused behind the North Stand. Obviously, the
Yeah.
shop's gone. I know they've moved over to where City at Home used to be and the Mercedes garage used to be. It's quite a long walk now around that end if you want to get from one end to the other. And the Summerby bar, if people don't know this, is now almost an open air bar
Yeah.
opposite the stand, which is a reflection of the main stand entrance. Has that been an issue? Is that something that people have talked about?
Do you know what? That's gone better than I thought it would because that's gone quite well. It's because people have got there early on the first couple of games, got used to it. The club have been pretty organised, or whoever's doing it for the club. So I haven't had loads of really bad reports about it. Even people, some of that we've lost some turnstiles, obviously. So people have to go into all the turnstiles. I think City fans, probably fearing the worst, have actually gone early and got used to it. So fingers crossed. So far, so good on that front. But that's going to continue for quite some time yet. We're going to have a real problem when I don't think it's this season. I think it'll be next when some people in the North Stand are going to have to relocate while some of the work's been going on. But a lot of them won't actually. It's fewer seats than you would think to add that extra. It's like an extra tier. It won't be 3 tiers, it'll be 2. But it's almost like putting an extra tier on. They're going to make it like work as one. So yeah, that's done okay to be honest. I've not had tons of reports of problems in that regard. So fair play to the club in terms of that. What we do need to do is keep talking to the club about what they're going to do with that stand and the knock-on effect around the ground. So obviously, I'm not daft. They're going to try and increase hospitality seating, probably on level 2 of Colin Bell and the East. So some people in there might find the prices going up. They want to move to the new seats or somewhere else. So you've got to manage that well and look after people again, not just think you're moving whether you like it or not. And I'd like to talk to them more about the number of season ticket holders we have. I do recognise we have quite a lot. We have 36,000 a lot for a stadium of our size. Like Liverpool have less than 30, they have 20 odd. So we have got, it's not a bad number, but we don't have any new ones available to buy at the moment. So basically, if you want to buy one for your son or your daughter, you can't. There's no new ones, and that's been like that for 2 or 3 years. So I'm hoping once we get closer to the end of that project, they'll release some new ones. We need some new blood. You should have some kind of churn, as they call it. As people let the season tickets go, I think people should be able to buy those. They should go back into the pot. They wouldn't do it this season, and we specifically asked them to, and they said no. And I think it's because they need room to move people around while they're doing this work. So yeah, we'll see how that conversation goes on season tickets.
Are there any discussions yet about the impact logistically of the new arena when that opens?
Yeah, the biggest problem there, and it's my view again, is transport. The transport situation. Some people, I mean, some people find it okay, but I get complaints about that kind of thing. They say, but I'm not convinced. I'll be honest with you, that they'll manage the demand. So when there's a pop concert on and we're not playing, it doesn't matter, and vice versa. If we've got a 3 o'clock kickoff, it might not affect. Some people will be leaving the stadium as some are arriving, type thing. But I think there's going to be clashes from time to time. You can see a Champions League night being a problem when we kick off at 8 o'clock. Maybe the concert starts at 7 or something. But they say that they're going to put more. They're going to put resources into it. What they're not saying what that is yet, and they're trialing things like running coaches and things like that. So they need to do more, in my view, on transport because I'm not convinced that they've not really like done a war game for what's the worst thing that happens when 23,000 people go to a concert there and we've got people going to a Champions League game. We could have 50, but by then we'll have 60,000, in another 2 years. So nearly 100,000 people knocking around trying to get to the same place. So that I'm worried about that, and I've raised it continuously. But I'll be honest with you, the club are not covering themselves in glory on that front, in my opinion.
The other question I was going to ask you is I saw something about some Premier League thing or the club wanting to create a new group of people, and with City Matters already existing, I was getting a little bit confused as to what was going on and why there might need to be another group. Can you clarify what that is and how it's going to work?
It sounds like, well, what I do know is that the Premier League, as an organisation, are frightened to death of the government imposing a football regulator on them. like a czar to oversee what they do. They're now saying to government, look, we're already consulting fans. We've got this brilliant new plan. So they're making each Premier League club have a fan engagement team, committee, if you want to call it that. We've already got ours, and not a lot of clubs don't have it. So they're having to set one up from new. They're all setting them up very differently, it looks to me. Like Liverpool haven't got one, so they're having like Spirit of Shankly on it and all those groups. We've already got ours, so I think they're going to stick with ours, tweak it a little bit to fit what the Premier League wants. So it sounds like a new group, but it's pretty much City Matters Mark II, I think. And I don't think there'll be that much change from what we're doing now. What will change is the club will have to sign up to certain things. They do it a bit off the cuff at the moment because it's not an actual requirement. They do it because they want to. Minutes don't always go out on time and all that kind of stuff. They're going to have to be a bit more organised and do it because it's now a requirement to be a Premier League club. So that's a good thing. But I don't think there'll be much change in that regard. There is something that I've not mentioned. We've got a meeting with UEFA coming up. And that's the club talking to UEFA with City Matters reps on it. And I should be at that meeting to talk about what happened in Istanbul. So we're trying to be positive. Yeah, we don't want to be negative about it. We want to say these were the problems. We'd like UEFA to recognise there were problems a bit more strongly than they have. I'm very, very disappointed at City haven't made a strong statement about how fans were treated. Maybe they will after the meeting, but they're keeping their powder dry, which I think is a shame. It should come out. But we've got that meeting next week, and we'll see what comes out of it. UEFA are going to be around the table with us and with the club.